slow, live it up, watching time go. Planning moves, things solid to this cheat code. Get your money, make it big, fuck being broke. Get your money, make it big, fuck being broke. Live slow, live it up, watching time go. Making moves, things solid to this cheat code. Get your money, make it big, fuck being broke. Get your money, make it big, fuck being broke. This how it is, the mission's Benjamins. And fuck the drama and the bullshit, we ain't little kids. My circle small, but my riders heart, they never quit. Get your money, keep it gangsta, solid, straight legit. Never switch like the real ones that die for this. It's fucked up, but this is truly how it is. I hope you're ready if you're picking this like full of sin. No turning back, I represent my vital to the end. Fuck the fakes and the snakes and everyone that hates. I'm not phased, I won't break, bitch, I'll never change.
You are now watching M.O.D Entertainment.
What's good, G-Life? This right here is California. And this is right here is LA County. And now we're going to be bouncing around from different spots because we'll be covering today all valley neighborhoods. And by valley neighborhoods, I mean neighborhoods that have the term valley in it. So not neighborhoods that are in the valleys, but the neighborhoods that use the valley term to them. You know, that's a part of their name. So for this, we'll have to bounce from several different spots, you know, from different, you know, areas. But without further ado, let's get into it. Now, we'll be starting off with the oldest one, probably when it comes to the Valley Varrios, which is the Varrio HVR. Varrio HVR translating into Varrio Happy Valley Rifa. Varrio Happy Valley is a very old neighborhood. I was told that this neighborhood goes back to the 1930s. At least that's what I was told. Old already. Now, this neighborhood resides in the area of Happy Valley. That's the reason why this Valley is called Happy Valley. I know people think that it's a made-up term. No, that's actually the name of the area right here. You know, the area's name is Happy Valley, which is on top of the hills. Their territory is everything from Thomas Street. Their territory extends all the way to Broadway all the way to Lincoln Park Avenue, extending all the way to where Florida Avenue is located at. So everything that's in the middle is considered their way, and all the way to Gilling Avenue. You know, so that's Alta Street, Lincoln Park, Pomona Street, Alta Street, Ema Avenue, you know, and all those back end streets that are right there in that area, you know what I mean, close to Abraham Lincoln High School. So if people know where that's at, that's where their Varrio's at, you know what I mean. Also by Pablo Senior High School. So within that area, it's what's considered the Varrio Happy Valley. So all those back ends, you know, and this is an old neighborhood, you know, where back in the days, you know, up in those hills, you know, it was rough, you know what I mean? That's why you know, you had a lot of Hispanic families that lived in that area, you know, went in the hills. It would get dangerous, homie, you know, you'll find all kinds of bodies up in those hills. You know, you get lost up there because, you know, if you don't know your way around this area, you know, it's easy to get lost. I mean, it was going to be a wrap, you know what I'm saying? The Happy Valley area is crazy, you know, like I said, because there's all kinds of, like, you know, turns and little streets that in the night, my boy, you could just disappear up there. You know what I'm saying? Shit ain't no joke. And this neighborhood was no joke. It used to be a very large neighborhood. Nowadays, it's not as large as it used to be. But despite what people want to say, this neighborhood is still active, still have members, still have youngsters. You know what I mean? They have several crews that have gotten into the neighborhood, you know, so it's still around despite what people want to say. Happy Valley, you know, it hasn't gone nowhere. They continue to still represent. I was told that this neighborhood is roughly more than 100 members to the Happy Valley neighborhood. So like I said, it does have a presence. You know, the HVR is no joke, and they still continue to be right here representing for the Happy Valley Rifa. And next on the list, for this one, we have to make our way to the area of East LA. You know, this is the neighborhood of my camarada Droopy, you know, representing M.O.D. You know, we gotta give your neighborhood some shine, my boy. Shout out to the homie Droopy, repping that M.O.D. This is his neighborhood, right here in the area of East LA, which is the Varrio LVR. LVR translating to Little Valley Rifa. Now, Little Valley Rifa is an old barrio, already dating back to the 40s, 50s. when this neighborhood goes back. It's it's an old gang within this area. When people talk about old neighborhoods, this one's also on the list. You know what I mean? It has its representatives, its members holding it down. They've been right here, longer than a lot of neighborhoods. And their territory is everything from where the freeway is at, all the way to Downey Road. Downey Road, their territory still extends all the way to Denson Street, and all the way to Rowan. So everything that's in the middle is considered their barrio. So that's throughout Whittier Boulevard, throughout Hubbard Street, throughout Record, throughout Fifth, throughout Eagle Street. All of that is considered their barrio. You know what I mean? But obviously, right there on Whittier and Record, that's that's the danger zone. That's the heart of the hood. That's where it gets on and cracking. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely where. That's where it goes no joke. People know right there where the car wash is at and all of that. You know what I'm saying? It be getting treacherous right there within that area of Little Valley. Little Valley is a neighborhood that is roughly more than 400 members to the Little Valley neighborhood spread out. Not just right here in LA County, but different states and areas. You know what I mean? And even all the way to Mexico. And despite what people are gonna want to say, now I know that this is the neighborhood of my homie, but just because that's the camarada doesn't mean that I'm exaggerating or putting too much on it. I seen it with my own eyes. People are not gonna tell me that this neighborhood's not up or if they're not deep. Nah, I know what I seen with my own eyes. People can't tell me different. You get what I'm saying? This neighborhood is large. They definitely post up. They definitely handle business, homie. And I'm just here to spit the facts. You know what I mean? This is a well-known, well-deep barrio, representing and holding it down for that Little Valley Rifa right here. Now, another valley neighborhood that we have, for this one, we have to make our way to the San Fernando Valley, which in the area right here of Sun Valley, which is the barrio Sol 13. Sol 13 actually standing for Sun Valley 13. Sol is just how you say, sun in Spanish. So, essentially a Sun Valley 13 or Sol 13. And Sun Valley being obviously right here located in the San Fernando Valley, in Sun Valley. Now, their neighborhood is the oldest in Sun Valley. The originators, the ones that pioneered it. Very old barrio dating back to the 40s. You know what I'm saying? So they have already been in this game for a long, long time. And the barrio Sol 13 used to be the only neighborhood within the area of Sun Valley. You were able to find them by the Sun Valley Park, by Sun Valley Middle School. That was their main hangout spots. The park or those alleys by Sun Valley Sun Valley Middle School. This neighborhood right here, like I said, they were the originators, with roughly more than 100 members to them. As of now, their neighborhood is still around, but not what it used to be. They're mostly pure veteranos, from the Sol 13, because essentially the Sol 13 neighborhood became the Violent Boys neighborhood. You get what I'm saying? So, you roughly don't see them up as much, no more. Even though they still are around, they still hold a presence. It's not what it was, back then. But the Sol 13 at one point, was the ones representing out of Sun Valley and the ones that, were recognized from this area. They're the pioneers when it comes to, the area of Sun Valley. And I know that they with the business, you know what I mean? I know a few homies out of here, like shout out to Turtle, also Diablo, shout out to, Tito, to all the homies out of Sol 13 that be holding it down. They were real motherfuckers that did real things, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, holding it down for that Sun Valley 13. Now, the next neighborhood on the list, we actually still have to maintain ourselves right here in the area of Sun Valley. It is the neighborhood that now is recognized for being in the area of Sun Valley, the ones that represent it, which is the barrio Sun Valley Violent Boys, the SVBS. Sun Valley Violent Boys, essentially, it's like the Sol 13 neighborhood manifested and went through metamorphosis and turned into the Violent Boys gang. You know what I'm saying? Essentially, if people look at the Sol 13 neighborhood, they had the Pequeños clique and the Dukes clique, and the Violent Boys now have the Pequeños and the Dukes clique. It's not a coincidence why it occurred that way. It's that way for a reason. You know what I mean? So it's like the Sol 13 neighborhood became the Violent Boys gang. You know what I mean? It's like their older homies are, essentially from Sol 13. So that's how it works. It was like their younger siblings. That's why the relationship was able to be, steady and cool between the Sol 13 and the Violent Boys gang, because they were mostly all related. Younger siblings. The Violent Boys neighborhood, when it came up, it spread like wildfire. It blew up in numbers. You know what I mean? It just the neighborhood just it spread like wildfire. It's one of the Valley's largest gangs, most notorious. Made the news several times. I got a lot of homies out of the Violent Boys gang. We have always had a pretty good relationship with the Violent Boys gang. You know what I mean? Now, even though people say the click up, we were never clicked up, but we always had a good relationship with the Violent Boys. Got a lot of homies. Shout out to Laz, he, Shine, Listo, Aimer, Indio, Matrix, Shadow, Firme, Drifter. The list could go on and on. You know what I mean? Shout out to all the homies. Don't want to leave none of you guys out, but there's just so many. So we must see a roll call. But their barrio is essentially everything. Everywhere in Sun Valley, you can find them by the Sun Valley High School. Middle school, by the high school, by the park. You can find them by Sherman Way. You could find them, man, you could just find these guys everywhere throughout Sun Valley. You know what I mean? By Poly, you could just, everywhere. But, they do have their stronghold in Jokerstown, one of their strongest, cliques, which is obviously located right there in Jokers. And now, the Sun Valley Violent Boys gang has made the news several times. I'm pretty sure people have seen it. You know what I mean? But although it's not the only gang within Sun Valley, because you do have several other neighborhoods, it is the one that's more recognized for, this area. And they still continue to be right there representing not only in Sun Valley, but also in the area of North Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like I said, they just have a massive amount of, I was told that the Sun Valley Violent Boys gang is more than 500 members to them. So that's a big neighborhood. But yeah, they still continue to represent right there and holding it down for the Sun Valley Violent Boys. Another neighborhood that we have right here in the area of Sun Valley is the varrio Sun Valley Diablos. Sun Valley Diablos is one of the more smaller but old neighborhoods. When we're talking about neighborhoods in the San Fernando Valley, already dating back to the 70s, 80s when this neighborhood was established. And the Sun Valley Diablos neighborhood territory resides in Sun Valley. Everything that's located where the Fernangeles Park is at. The Fernangeles Park area is their domain, their dojo. That's the heart of their hood where they get it on and cracking. And although this neighborhood is not as large as the Violent Boys gang, it's still a neighborhood that's still active despite what people say. They still have members that are around. You know what I mean? I myself have had my run-ins with this neighborhood. Several incidents and stuff like that. So I do know that they have their members that hold it down and represent for theirs. You know what I mean? They were always roughly a small neighborhood. I was told that they're roughly about 80 members to them. 60 to 80 members around there. And their territory was everything where the Fernangeles Park's at, right there on Wicks, on Remick, by Lauren Canyon Boulevard. Like Lauren Canyon and Wicks. And, throughout all those back streets, on Cranford, Sharp, all of that is where you were able to find, on Sheldon. It's where you were able to find the Sun Valley Diablos. And, they continue to still be right there representing for theirs, the Sun Valley Diablos as DBS. So that's the SVDS or DBS, how they write theirs. You know what I mean? But it's essentially all together, Sol Valle Diablos or Sun Valley Diablos. That's just how you see it written. And there's a lot of, beefs within the gangs in Sun Valley. They don't get along with each other. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? While some areas, may be able to rep the same city and coexist, several areas are not. This being one of them. But the Sun Valley Diablos still right there be representing. And here we have one of the more newest sets to the bunch, which is the Varrio Sun Valley G-Dubs. Varrio Sun Valley G-Dubs translating to Varrio Sun Valley Grumpy Winos. That's how it's written. Sun Valley Grumpy Winos. You do sometimes see it just Grumpy Winos, but it's mostly always Sun Valley Grumpy Winos. And Sun Valley Grumpy Winos was a crew that became a neighborhood. They were an old school tag banging crew. Used to stand for Guess Who, you know, gone wild. They had several different meanings to the G-Dubs neighborhood, you know what I mean? But when it transitioned into a neighborhood, and as you know, essentially when it became a neighborhood, because this crew was around in the 90s, didn't become a neighborhood until the 2000s, early 2000s. And I was told that there were roughly about 60 to 65 members to the G-Dubs gang. Like I said, they haven't been around that long, you know what I mean? They're roughly, you know, new, obviously, because they were a crew. But they were a crew that would put in work and definitely hold it down, you know what I mean? And their territory is located in Sun Valley, but by Poly High School. So already in the outskirts of Poly is where you were able to find the G-Dubs neighborhood. You get what I'm saying? The area close to Sheldon, you know, almost by the gas station, by the 76 gas station, is where you were able to find the Grumpy Whiners, where you're able to find them. You know what I mean? I know a few guys that, you know, G-Dubs as well, you know, and I know that they hold it down, you know what I mean? They be representing, and you know, I'm pretty sure people had seen, you know, when they made the news, you know, because they have homies over there in Syria, they be fighting over there in Syria. It's crazy, you know what I'm saying? The G-Dubs neighborhood is a real neighborhood that holds it down, you know, for theirs. These guys ain't no suckers, you know. Despite it, they used to be a crew or not, it's irrelevant. This varrio's a varrio that definitely handle business, and they got homies that hold it down, you know what I mean? They ain't no suckers. And you still continue to see them and repping for them and still holding it down for their neighborhood.